From within the narrative, the Jedi are framed as serene guardians of peace, robed monks guided by wisdom and restraint. But from the outside, from the perspective of ordinary citizens navigating daily life in the Republic, the Jedi would appear not as protectors, but as an unaccountable force operating beyond the reach of law, procedure, or consent. The Jedi do not run for office, they are not appointed through civilian review, and they are never audited by independent institutions, yet they possess the authority to detain, interrogate, and kill, often on the spot. Their legitimacy derived not from democratic mandate, but from tradition and mysticism, a foundation that inspires reverence among elites and fear among everyone else. To a planetary governor or local magistrate, a Jedi arrival is not reassurance. It is a jurisdictional nightmare. Suddenly a higher authority appears that does not answer to local law, does not disclose its decision-making process, and cannot be overruled. The Jedi do not cooperate with systems, they supersede them. This is not subtle within the films. Qui-Gon Jinn ignores the authority of Watto, bypasses local governance on Tatooine entirely, and imposes his own moral framework without consequence. From his perspective, it is benevolent. From the outside, it is coercive intervention by a foreign religious agent. Jedi are allowed to operate with lethal force based solely on their own judgment. There are no warrants, no hearings, no post-action reviews available to the public. A Jedi decides what is right, acts on it, and leaves. The population absorbs the consequences without recourse. Mind tricks magnify this fear exponentially. The casual way Jedi manipulate thoughts is played for charm on screen, but stripped of narrative framing, it becomes a civil liberties horror. The ability to alter perception, compliance, and memory without consent or documentation. There are no safeguards shown, no ethical review boards, no limitations on use. A Jedi can simply decide that someone's autonomy is inconvenient and override it. The phrase, "these are not the droids you're looking for," is delivered lightly, but it represents total mental violation. To the average citizen, the difference between a Jedi mind trick and authoritarian psychological control is non-existent. Both erase agency, both leave no evidence, and both provide no avenue for appeal. A power like that existing outside civilian oversight would terrify any society. Even worse, citizens would never know when it had been used. No record, no report, no marker of interference. Trust becomes impossible. When someone might not even know their thoughts were altered. This alone would be enough to justify widespread fear and resentment. Jedi recruitment practices deepen this unease. From the outside, the process resembles institutionalized child removal. Infants identified, separated from families, and absorbed into an insular order with no public transparency. Even when families technically consent, the power imbalance is overwhelming. A religious order backed by the Republic arrives and tells parents their child is special, destined, and required elsewhere. Refusal carries social and moral pressure that renders choice questionable at best. There are no visible follow-ups, no civilian advocates for families, no mechanisms for children to leave once inducted. The order becomes their entire world. To outside observers, this looks less like mentorship and more like sanctioned indoctrination. The emotional cost is borne by families, not the Jedi. Parents lose children, communities lose members, and the order continues unchanged, insulated from the social damage it creates. Resentment festers quietly and persistently. The Jedi answer not to the Senate, but to their own council, a closed body of unelected mystics whose deliberations occur in private chambers, shaping galactic events without public scrutiny or consent. A dozen individuals selected internally determine how peacekeeping is conducted. When force is justified and which crises matter, citizens have no vote, no representation, and no insight into how these decisions are reached. This is not wisdom from the outside, it is oligarchy, authority concentrated among a self-perpetuating elite, justified by spiritual superiority. A structure historically associated not with justice, but with abuse. The Jedi insist they serve the Republic, yet they operate parallel to it, immune to its consequences. When their interventions succeed, they receive praise. When they fail, the fallout lands on civilians and governments. Entire systems are destabilized by Jedi miscalculations. Wars escalate, political trust erodes, and yet no Jedi is publicly tried, censured, or removed by civilian authority. Accountability remains internal, if it exists at all. The Clone Wars exemplify this imbalance. The Jedi misread the political situation, failed to detect Palpatine, and accept militarization despite their stated philosophy. Billions die as a result, but consequences are diffuse and impersonal. Civilians lose homes, families, and planets, while the Jedi Council continues meeting, debating, and adjusting doctrine, insulated by status and secrecy. From the outside, this looks like institutional immunity. Immunity breeds hatred faster than ideology. People will tolerate mistakes if they see accountability. They revolt when power fails without consequence. The Jedi embody this failure perfectly. By the time Order 66 is executed, the groundwork for public indifference has already been laid. Many citizens do not mourn the Jedi because, from their perspective, the Order was never truly on their side. The Jedi fall not only because of Sith manipulation, but because they failed to earn civilian trust, operating above the law, beyond oversight, and without transparency. They positioned themselves as a threat long before they were framed as traitors. This section reframes the Jedi not as misunderstood heroes, but as a deeply unsettling institution whose powers, privileges, and protections would alarm any population concerned with rights, autonomy, and accountability. As we move into Section 2, the analysis shifts from fear to consequence, examining how the Jedi presence actively worsened life for ordinary people, and why their disappearance did not immediately feel like a loss to much of the galaxy. For ordinary people living far from Senate chambers and Force visions, the Jedi did not represent balance. They represented escalation, their very existence attracting enemies powerful enough to turn entire star systems into collateral damage, a reality that made daily life more dangerous simply by proximity. Sith Lords, dark side cults, and galaxy-scale warlords do not arise in a vacuum. They arise in response to the Jedi. The conflict is asymmetrical and cosmic, but the casualties are mundane: farmers, dockworkers, traders, and refugees who never consented to become pieces in a metaphysical chess match. To someone harvesting crops or unloading freight, the equation is brutally simple. When Jedi appear, catastrophe follows. Planets burn not because civilians failed, but because ancient orders continue a feud ordinary people neither understand nor benefit from. The Jedi frame themselves as necessary counterweights, but from the outside they look like accelerants. The Force becomes a fault line running through civilian life, cracking stability wherever it surfaces. Fewer Jedi would logically mean fewer galaxy-ending confrontations. Their philosophy deepens this disconnect. Jedi preach compassion while outlawing attachment, a doctrine that places them fundamentally at odds with normal social existence. Families, friendships, grief, and love are treated as weaknesses rather than foundations of civilization. To citizens who build lives around connection, the Jedi worldview feels cold and elitist. Compassion without participation, empathy without shared experience. They advise from above rather than live among those they claim to protect. This detachment erodes trust. People sense that Jedi do not mourn the way they do not love the way they do, and do not lose the way they do. The gap between protector and protected becomes emotional as well as political. When disasters strike, Jedi speak of balance and destiny, language that offers no comfort to those burying family members. Philosophy becomes an excuse rather than a remedy, reinforcing the perception that Jedi are more concerned with cosmic harmony than human cost. Their failures compound this resentment. The Jedi do not merely err quietly. They fail publicly and catastrophically at the moments when accuracy matters most. Palpatine rises under their watch. The Sith operate in plain sight, and the Order senses disturbance too late to matter. Anakin Skywalker is misread entirely, his instability overlooked, his warnings dismissed, and his attachment mishandled. The consequences ripple outward into genocide and dictatorship. Yet the narrative frames this as tragedy, rather than institutional malpractice. From the outside, the pattern is clear. The Jedi claim unique insight, yet repeatedly misjudge reality. When their foresight collapses, everyone else pays the price. Credibility does not survive repeated existential miscalculations. The Clone Wars mark the breaking point. Peacekeepers transform into generals overnight, wielding armies they did not create, and commanding wars they philosophically oppose. This should terrify any civilian population. A religious order with no electoral mandate suddenly controls military strategy, deployment, and occupation. The Jedi do not merely fail to stop the war, they legitimize it by leading it, dragging billions into a conflict they help to normalize. For civilians, this is not noble sacrifice, it is betrayal. The guardians of peace become instruments of destruction, and the line between protector and threat disappears entirely. When the Jedi fall, the immediate aftermath is uncomfortable in its normalcy. For many systems, life does not collapse overnight. Trade routes stabilize, piracy decreases, and order returns under Imperial administration. This does not excuse Imperial brutality, but it explains civilian ambivalence. The Empire is oppressive but predictable. Taxes are collected, laws are enforced, and hyperspace lanes are secured. For populations exhausted by chaos, predictability feels like relief. The absence of Jedi means the absence of force-driven escalation. No sudden invasions, no ancient prophecies triggering war, no duels that redraw political reality overnight. Life becomes smaller, and for many, safer. This truth is narratively inconvenient, but essential. The Jedi were not universally loved or missed. Their removal does not immediately worsen life because for many, they were never a stabilizing presence to begin with. The Empire capitalizes on this perception, framing the Jedi as reckless mystics who endangered the galaxy, a message that resonates because it aligns with lived experience. Propaganda succeeds when it reinforces what people already believe. Rebellions later struggle with this legacy, asking civilians to mourn an order that operated above the law, violated autonomy, and failed catastrophically. Nostalgia does not spread evenly when memory is mixed with fear. Star Wars positions the Jedi as moral truth, but the galaxy they inhabit tells a harsher story. Power without accountability breeds resentment. Mysticism without transparency breeds fear, and protection without consent breeds hostility. The Jedi downfall is not merely a Sith victory, it is a civilian disengagement. People do not rise en masse to defend the Order because the Order never truly belonged to them. This reframes the saga entirely. The Jedi are not tragic guardians betrayed by fate. They are an institution that failed to integrate with the society it claimed to serve, and paid the price when legitimacy evaporated. Seen this way, the Jedi were terrifying not because they were evil, but because they were unanswerable, and life became quieter, if not kinder, when they were gone. That is the uncomfortable conclusion Star Wars rarely confronts. The galaxy did not instantly descend into darkness without the Jedi. It adapted, suggesting that the Yo-Yo-I Order's presence may have been as destabilizing as it was protective. This completes the analysis of why the Jedi, from the outside, inspired fear rather than comfort, and why their disappearance did not universally register as a loss, but as an ambiguous and sometimes welcome change.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.